2 hours ago, guys. You're sure ready? Go!
I'm Erik.
I'm Aziza.
And this is a scene from By Definition. Goodness, Jordan, you look terrible.
I finished 1984.
Well, I finished 50 Shades of Grey.
I would hope so. You've been in there for 4 days. 1984 only took me 4 hours. What were you doing?
I was being thorough. How was 1984?
Right. We have a problem.
Well, it couldn't be that bad. If 1984 is anything like my
While waiting for your return, I returned to the encyclopedia to cross-check the event references in this outrageous novel, and none of it matches.
Oh, boy.
So I checked the entry for fiction, and it's entirely made-up genre of book. Apparently, writers from this time period used to just sit around and make up entire books about unrealistic situations. These fiction books are nothing to report back to the Utopia because nothing in them actually happened.
So you didn't like 1984 then?
No, it was fantastic. Opened my eyes to a lot of truths about our own utopian system. But that's not the point. We were sent in here to uncover the unknown history of this age.
And 50 Shades of Grey is made up as well?
Yes, that's what my research suggests, yes.
I don't know. I became highly invested in most of the people it was talking about, and I was influenced internally in a way that nothing has ever internally influenced me before. I also learned that sometimes discipline isn't a bad thing. Hey, by the way, do any of these books say what a handcuff is?
But that's the thing about this type of book, Ryan. Audience investment fueled the industry. It was a very common practice that died off with the abolishment of imagination in the early 2040s. I.e. the writing of books that could inspire one's imagination other than one's intellect.
Imagination?
Yes, it's the unrealistic ideas that we have in our minds. It's been outlawed for centuries. Are you familiar?
I think I am now. Wait, where did you learn all this?
Well, I've had some time to do some research while you did yours. It's all written right here. I conclude that we cannot report these fiction books as actual history. Not only is it untruthful, but it's punishable.
As I said, punishment might not be such a bad thing.
1984 says otherwise.
So, you're telling me I don't need to read this again? What if I fantasize about my own version and transpose it into my own words?
What are you talking about?
There should be so much more to this story. I want to write a whole fiction of my own in its honor. Maybe if I gave the characters supernatural abilities.
Actually, there's a few sequels in that franchise.
Excuse me?
A continuation of the plot in separate standalone entities.
Oh. Well, where can I find those?
That's not important, Ryan. Look, I have assembled a pile of instructional devices used to teach the children the history of the time during the learning hours of the era. They were called history books.
Really? Could this time period get any lazier with the naming of things?
Don't even get me started. I stumbled upon something called an iBook, created by a group called Apple. They would just stick an I in front of everything and call a new product. Controversially, it was exactly the same as something called a Kindle Fire, but the iBook made the fire obsolete.
So this is the group that reinvented fire.
They also made the iWheel, which made something called a Firestone go out. They sounded like a pretty ruthless group. That's what led me to finding imagination. They were one of the major contributors. I digress. That whole situation is now irrelevant. These manuals here were mass-produced and distributed to students who wanted to learn. Perfect for our endeavor.
Exactly as we're taught in Utopia.
Precisely. This is how we will be able to convey the truth of this era to our utopian society.
You really think that's the way we should do this?
It's what we were assigned to do.
Jordan, we've uncovered something abandoned since the 2040s with these fiction books, and you want to fall back to the everyday norm we already experience with these textbooks? Oh, come on. What else besides text could be in these books?
They aren't evidence as to what drove this time period.
Look how many fiction books are in here. I'm chomping at the bit to fill my mind with this imagination.
Ryan, what I read in 1984 is in no way going to help the Utopia move forward intellectually. In fact, a lot of the ideas express plots against the means of operation in the Utopia that's already established. The required bedtime, arranged marriages, the newly rediscovered social class system that I can't get out of my head. Oh yeah, and go ahead and call us proles now. That's what they called the working class. Before I read this, I wasn't fully aware of the concept of fear. But now I'm aware of what fear is. I'm full of the fear of fear. It's quite a conundrum. And I've tried to control it by diving back into the intellectual side of this place, but it keeps coming back, Ryan, it keeps coming back!
You said it wasn't real, though.
Yeah, but this book made me feel that it is.
Ryan. Or Jordan. Jordan? I have been engulfed with sexual urges I didn't even know existed until I opened my Fictaion book. That doesn't mean those urges are real. I mean, what am I going to do? Leave this place, trying to influence somebody to come be my personal sexual slave? I mean, I could try it, but I don't think anyone would be really into that, so I think I'll leave it alone. I mean, you can do the same thing with this fear thing.
There does seem to be a reason for these books. It's just a distraction from the truth.
How about I see what Britannica has to say about this?
I already told you.
I would like to read it myself. I have my doubts about your discoveries. These books were obviously significantly more important to this time period than the textbook. Let's just look more into it.
I don't think this is
Literature created from the imagination, not presented as fact, though it may be based on a true story or situation. The word is from the Latin fictio, the act of making, fashioning, or molding. Then it gives a list of all types of fictaion.
I just told you all of that.
Oh, there's so many subgenres.
Well, technically to us, all of these books could be considered fictaion.
What's Latin?
It's an old language that apparently we get all our words from.
Well, why don't we know it?
Well, we do, kind of just a mutated version of it.
Well, is it in any of these textbooks?
Oddly, I haven't seen much. If it is, it's only referenced. But think about it.
What, Latin?
No. The definition of fictaion and the idea behind all of these history books. I mean, aren't they all based on real events that are only considered real because they are in these books?
I guess that's an odd way of spinning it.
And the same would go for the rest of the books. Even the autobiographies would only be based on the ideas in our heads, enticed by the things we read. Like, did this Justin Bieber fellow really have the first concert in space? That sounds like a scientific type of fictaion.
You read those?
I grazed. They were probably more of a scenic prop of this time than something to actually indulge in.
Well, they seemed interesting to me, but
Wait.
I thought...
Wouldn't our reports back to the Utopia be considered, by definition, fictio? I mean, the act of making a report.
Jordan, you're basically saying that every instructional manual that we've ever read is a fictaion.
Maybe they are.
But that would mean that...
Nothing's real.